The most important issues, I would divide those expectations or issues into several tracks. On the first track, the major expectation from COP29 on the negotiation side is to deliver on around 60 decisions, which will form a package of Baku, the decisions coming from Baku COP. And two of them are most important for the international climate community. One of them is a new collective quantified goal, which is with its acronym like NCQG. And another major decision on operationalization of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, or carbon markets, international carbon markets. Baku COP is considered to be a finance COP because so far in all previous COPs, the parties to the Convention on Climate Change have increased their ambitions to ensure that the energy transition and their climate action is corresponding to the global situation in terms of climate change. Now, Baku COP is expected to deliver on the means of implementation to implement those ambitions that have been raised so far. We will, in other words, we will agree on a new collective quantified goal, which will be a replacement for the $100 billion annual goal of the previous decision that was made in Copenhagen in 2009. And on Article 6 decision, which is expected to operationalize the international carbon markets, the regulated international carbon markets, this is also one of the most important decisions expected from Baku, as many developing countries are waiting or expecting the COP to finally do this long-standing unresolved issue, so that to get additional source of funding for financing their energy transition and climate action related activities. When it comes to the global context, Azerbaijan's role as a global player has been developed, especially during the non-aligned movement chairmanship. In the last recently concluded chairmanship to the NAM lasted around more than four years. It's more than usual. And during this period, Azerbaijan has proved itself to be a global player. Under the leadership of the President of Azerbaijan, we have initiated several important undertakings within the United Nations to ensure the vaccine equity during the COVID time. We have managed to translate the challenges related to the pandemic to cooperation opportunities. Now, inspired by this global role, Azerbaijan has nominated itself to be the COP host, which will be another opportunity for us to show our global leadership and to also once again demonstrate our bridging role among different fronts, the group of countries having different or divergent views on some issues. And climate is really one of those topics that has a divisive nature. Developing countries and developed countries have their distinct positions on this topic, and Azerbaijan's role as a bridge maker in this regard is very important to reinstate once again its global role. In terms of the regional context, Azerbaijan, first time the COP is being held in our region. It has never been held in South Caucasus or Central Asia or in the former Soviet Union countries. Azerbaijan's hosting COP will give us an opportunity to bring up our regional environmental challenges into the global agenda, like Caspian Sea level is going down, as you know, and this depletion of the Caspian Sea level will once again be raised at the global level this time. And the littoral states of the Caspian Sea will have a chance in front of the whole international community to raise this matter as a standalone case and try to find solutions together with other international community members. This will be also additional opportunity for all the regional countries to once again reconsider their energy transition goals and to see what kind of climate or environmental policy would be better for them to to make sure that their strategies and policies in terms of environment are in place and effective. I will explain this in response to your question based on the case of COP29, Azerbaijan's, the COP that will take place in Baku. As I mentioned, it will be a finance COP. So the major decisions expected from Baku is related to climate finance, means of implementation to be available for ensuring effective climate action. The main divergence of views in this regard on the climate finance direction is that, according to Paris Agreement, developed countries should lead the global efforts in helping the developing countries, supporting them in their energy transition goals. And here the recipients are developing countries. But when it comes to reality, these developed countries are supporting the developing countries, but it is below, so far, below the threshold that has been agreed in Copenhagen, below 100 billion. Only in 2022, according to OECD, this amount has been reached. 116 billion was mobilized to help the developing countries. But the main divergent view in this regard is whether it should be only developed countries supporting developing countries, or developing countries also need to commit themselves to support financially other developing countries. And I mean those developing countries having enough sufficient financial capacity to do so. So therefore we are trying as a host country and incoming COP29 presidency to bring together all these countries to find a solution. But this is not only the issue that is divergent among their views, among the parties' views. What I was talking was about the figure that is going to be agreed in Baku and the contributors. Who should be the contributors? COP29, except those that I've mentioned on climate finance direction, also are expected to deliver on some key issues for the global climate action. Like, according to Paris Agreement, there are three major pillars of climate action: mitigation, adaptation, and finance, the means of implementation. On mitigation, the parties are expected to mitigate their emission that they are creating by several means, by applying renewable energy, by having undertaken some projects related to reducing the global emissions. On adaptation, the parties are expected to adapt already changed climate and should be ready for, should build resilience against any kind of development coming from climate change. And according to finance pillar, the means of implementation, namely money, technology and capacity building, should be made available for the parties. And Baku COP and the 60 decisions that is going to be adopted in Baku, it can be more than 60 even, they will address mainly those issues within these three pillars. Like, some of the decisions will be related to mitigation, some of these decisions will be related to adaptation, like mainly on decisions on agriculture, decisions on human capital, education, public awareness and others, and also on finance. Of course, that I've mentioned already, two of them. And also on technology related decision is expected to be adopted in Baku, which will be first of its kind in the last years, also giving an additional impetus to the process of means of implementation to be made available for the parties. Except this negotiation track, Baku COP also is expected to have some added value through Azerbaijan's own presidency initiatives. We already announced 14 initiatives. We call them our action agenda or presidency initiatives, and they will be additional asset to the global climate action. Through, for example, one of them is that we will be establishing a climate finance action fund. This fund is one of, in our view, added values to the ongoing process of flow of finance, ensuring the flow of finance to developing countries, to make them be more resilient to climate change, to make them be more ready to transition their energy, and also to be, from capacity and technology-wise, be better equipped to deal with the climate change-related challenges. Climate Finance Action Fund is an innovative approach from Azerbaijan as incoming presidency in terms of several reasons. And it has some distinctive nature from other funds that have been established so far, other climate funds, because we have now more than 60 funds around the world on climate. What was a major challenge for many parties for these funds, that they couldn't benefit from these funds, was their lack of accessibility of these funds. So there is sufficient amount of finance or resources available in these funds, but the problem is how accessible they are. Some parties having particular problems as a consequence of some natural disaster, for example, when they apply to get funding from the fund, from these funds, climate fund, they cannot get it in a short period of time. They apply and they get answer only a few years after, and then they will not need this money to recover. And also another problem is that some developing countries lack sufficient amount of investment in their climate-related projects. So based on these two shortcomings, Azerbaijan decided to design a fund that will be sourced by fossil fuel countries. This is also innovation, that there has never been any kind of fund or funding mechanism that is supported by the fossil fuel countries as a standalone category of countries. So here we are talking about three major innovations. One, the source will be the fossil fuel countries. Second, it will be investment-oriented fund that will be supporting those projects in developing countries, having some risks to get revenues. And the third, within this fund, there will be a rapid response funding facility, which means 20% of the whole revenue coming from the investments from this fund will be allocated for rapid response funding facility, which will make immediate funding available for those countries in need of finance that has suffered from the consequences of natural disasters. A new collective quantified goal is, as I said, the major expectation, negotiated deliverable from COP29. We specify this decision as a litmus test for Paris Agreement. If we can agree this decision in Baku, then the whole developing world will have their trust and confidence to continue on Paris Agreement, on global climate architecture. If we cannot adopt this decision, it means this confidence and trust will be lost. So therefore, it's a make or break moment for international community. Azerbaijan is trying to talk to all parties, stakeholders concerned, to get this decision to be adopted in Baku, since without this NCQG decision, many parties will not be able to submit their nationally determined contributions that they are expected to submit by February 2025. And if we miss this opportunity of not submitting these NDCs by February 2025, then we cannot raise ambitions, and now we are running against time. Each passing year, each passing month will be a real challenge for the global community. And according to World Meteorological Organization, now we are already 14 months in a row experiencing the hottest period of the whole history of humanity. And it once again shows that we need to act now, and this NCQG decision will be the key. You have probably also heard about our initiative on COP Truce. The COP Truce is also an innovative initiative coming from Azerbaijani Presidency, and it was inspired by the Olympic truce that has been put forward long before within the UN system. Before each Olympic Games, UN General Assembly come up with a resolution on observing the truce or ceasefire during the Olympic Games. And we have been inspired by this to put forward the initiative of COP Truce, not only because we wanted to promote peace regionally or globally. This is, of course, one of the main reasons of our initiative. But another reason is that military activities and the wars, armed conflicts, are significant source of emission. Around 5 to 6% of the global emission is on military activities. So for the moment, more than 50 conflicts are existing around the world. And if we can observe a month of ceasefire during the COP time, we can expect significant reduction of emission, which will be definitely serving for the purpose of climate action to be reversed, climate change to be reversed. It's not only Azerbaijan, but before also, at least last 3 COPs, when you look at them, the UK, Egypt and United Arab Emirates, all were fossil producing and exporting countries. I think, and that was also emphasized by our president on several occasions, the fossil fuel countries should not be criticized for having a courage to come forward and to initiate their nominations for hosting COP. But quite vice versa, it should be appreciated by international community that we want to be at the forefront. And the Climate Finance Action Fund, for example, proposed by Azerbaijan, is a clear testament that we want us to also support globally other developing countries. But when it comes to Azerbaijan, it's Azerbaijan's own policy on energy transition. So recently, especially after we were announced to be the host of COP29, Azerbaijan has joined the methane pledge. So we have committed ourselves to reduce the methane emission in the coming years significantly, which needs big resources, or big amount of financial resources. SOCAR, our oil energy company, has announced 2050 net zero pledge. Azerbaijan also announced that the portion of renewables in the energy mix of Azerbaijan will be increased to 30% by 2030. All this once again demonstrate that Azerbaijan wants to ensure the energy transition to be implemented smoothly.